carry with a loaded chamber or not to chamber, that is the question. Whether it is nobler to endure the slings and arrows of bearded loudmouths or to risk a negligent discharge. Oh, sorry. We're talking about carrying an auto-loading pistol. Should you or should you not have a round in the chamber? I gotta tell you, until very recently, I didn't know people still debated this subject. My opinion has always been that unless there's something specific to you or your situation that creates a circumstance where you probably shouldn't, then yes, you should have a round in the chamber. And I think there's some very good reasons for that. Let me show you some of them. There's lots of good reasons to carry with a round in the chamber. Let me cover what I think are the top three. First is speed. There's no question that if you have to take the time to chamber a round, it's going to slow that process down a little bit. In reality, if you ever have to shoot, chances are the range will be short, the target will be large, and you'll have plenty of time. But that's not always the case, and there's no question that taking the time to chamber a round slows you down just a little bit. The second thing is reliability. If you carry a modern, good quality, well-maintained double-action autoloader like a Beretta or a SIG, or a good striker action like a Smith & Wesson M&P or this Glock, and you carry a round in the chamber, there is a chance, albeit a very small one, that when you bring that out and pull the trigger, it won't go off. You might panic and short stroke the trigger, the round in the chamber might be a dud, whatever. That chance exists, but it's minute. However, every action you add to this process of bringing your pistol out increases exponentially the chances of some kind of mishap, usually one caused by you. If you have to put a round in the chamber, you might miss the slide, you might short stroke it. There's just a whole lot more things that can go wrong if you add that step. So in short, 1, speed, 2, reliability. Now the third thing is, if you have a round in the chamber, you can bring your pistol into action with one hand. If you are fending off some kind of attack, you can shoot one-handed. Obviously, accuracy suffers, but if you have to shoot like that, you're probably shooting point blank. Now, for those of you in the what-if brigade, what if you're fending off an attack with your gun side? Then what do? Okay. I'm right-handed, so if you're a lefty, just mirror image everything I'm saying. The most popular place for people to carry a pistol is on their right hip. And if you have the right holster and if you train properly, you can reach around behind you and grab this pistol with your left hand. The reason I'm not wearing my shooting jacket today is so you can see what it is that I'm doing. So let's give that a try. Again, accuracy suffers, but if you have to shoot that way, you're probably shooting point blank. So we've seen some good reasons why you would have a round in the chamber, but is there ever a time when you wouldn't want to? Well, a lot of people who tout themselves as experts or instructors like to make blanket statements such as, you should always have a round in the chamber. And sometimes they like to make inflammatory statements, including, if you don't have enough training or confidence to carry with a round in the chamber, you shouldn't even be carrying. Well, for me, before I want to make blanket or inflammatory statements, I think perhaps you should ask the question, is there a time when you would want to carry with an empty chamber? And the answer is yes. What a lot of experts forget is that different people live in different places and we're not all subject to the same laws. There are places here in the United States where you are allowed to carry a handgun, but you are prohibited from carrying a loaded gun. And in some of those places, loaded is defined as round in the chamber. So there are some places in the United States where this is okay, and this is not. Along that same line, people who work for private security companies, security guards, armored car drivers, those kind of people. You don't see this a lot anymore, but you'll still see it occasionally, where companies will have a company policy prohibiting loaded chambers on auto-loading pistols. So in short, a reason to not have a round in the chamber is because you're not allowed to. Another reason you might want to carry with an empty chamber is because there's certain people who have a skill set or certain abilities that when meshed with their particular firearm create a situation where carrying with a round in the chamber might not be a good idea. Let me show you a couple of guns that I think will illustrate that point. This is a Beretta Model 1934 in caliber .380 ACP. It's intended to be carried with a loaded chamber, a cocked hammer, and the safety on. The problem with that is I have an above average sized hand, but it's very difficult for me to push that safety all the way forward into firing position. So with this gun with the round in the chamber, the hammer cocked, and the safety on, what we used to call condition 1, let's see how we do. And no, that was not a dramatic pause. That's how long it takes me to disengage the safety of the gun. So how do I overcome that? Well, what I do is I get the safety off, lower the hammer, put it on half cock for safety, and carry it in what we used to call condition 2, and then cock the hammer as I bring it out. And that's what works for me, and that's how I carry this pistol when I carry it. The problem is the hammer spring on this particular gun is so stiff that I've handed it to several people who were unable to cock it. So how do they overcome that? Well, what they can do is carry it with an empty chamber and then just rack the slide as they bring it into action. Ideal? No, but it's what works with this gun for some people. Now here's another single action auto. This is an Egyptian Helwan pistol. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's a direct copy of the Beretta Model 1951. Let me show you a close-up of this gun. Like the Model 1934, this is a single action auto that's intended to be carried round in the chamber, hammer cocked, safety on. This is your safety right here, and you press that in to disengage it. Well, that doesn't exactly enhance my firing grip to press the safety like this, and it really doesn't help me out too much to re-engage the safety by pressing the button back the other direction. Let's shoot this and see how we do. So with this pistol with a round in the chamber, hammer cocked, safety on, let's see how we do. And that is just difficult for me to reach that safety, and even more so to re-engage the safety. So, how to overcome that? Lower the hammer, put it on half cock for safety. The problem with doing that, for me, is not the stiffness of the hammer spring, but the way it's located. It's very difficult for me to cock this hammer without completely changing my grip on the gun. So let's see how this works. It works, but it's just not ideal. So, a way to overcome that is carry it with an empty chamber and then just rack the slide as you bring it into action. Ideal? No. But it's what works with this gun for some people. So we've seen some good reasons why you should carry with a round in the chamber, and some reasons why you might not want to. The thing is, when I show old guns like the Beretta 1934 and that Helwan pistol, the immediate reaction I get from a lot of people is, why don't you get rid of that weird old junk and buy something modern, like a Smith & Wesson M&P? The answer is because for a lot of people, both financially and legally, that's just not feasible. Financially, not everyone can afford to run down and buy a brand new SIG. Legally, there are places in the United States where lawmakers have enacted gun control where they could not outright ban handguns, so they just put laws and rules in place making it extremely difficult to buy them. And in places like that, you will see people with weird old guns. But what I would tell you is, presuming that legally and financially it is feasible for you, go down and buy a modern gun like this Smith & Wesson M&P, or this SIG, or this Glock. Get the appropriate education and training, and carry with a round in the chamber. That having been said, there's still a lot of people that can't get past that mental block they have, that they have a real safety concern about carrying around in the chamber. And that usually stems from when they were a kid, their grandpa taught them empty chambers on autoloaders. And when your grandpa was a kid, that had some validity. But with modern guns like these, it's just not really the concern it once was. But still, there are people that can't get past their perceived safety concern of having a round in the chamber. And to those people, I'd tell you two things. One, get over it. Two, if you just can't get over it, well, if you carry a gun like this SIG with a loaded magazine but an empty chamber, and you train on the empty chamber technique, and you carry that in your holster, you are going to be a lot more prepared and a lot better off than the guy who left his gun at home because someone told him that if you don't carry chamber, don't carry. So, as always, don't try this at home. I'm what you call a professional. And thanks for watching the chambered versus unchambered video.